I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. The next announcements of items in closed session. Trustee Gaslin, do you have a report for us?
Okay, so for item 3B, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session, public employees discipline, dismissal, release was informational only. Item 3C, with respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 and Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, Barbara Frankovich, Interim Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, Employees Organization, Nevada Federation of Teachers, NFT. During closed session, the board discussed a memorandum of understanding for an intent to separate stipend for NFT, Nevada Federation of Teachers members for the 2021-2022 school year only. And this does require a roll call vote of trustees. So, Trustee Nell?
Aye.
Trustee Aguila?
Aye.
Trustee Jacobson?
Aye.
Trustee Butler?
Aye.
Trustee Mack?
Aye.
I am an aye, and Trustee Miller?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay, the motion passes 7-0.
Okay. Any other information?
I believe
for us?
that's it, thank you.
Okay. So the next item is item number 7.
Actually, I
Oh,
apologize.
you have one more item you want to report?
I think we didn't. Do you have item D with CSEA in here too? So we didn't.
No.
Okay, so there's no report out on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. The next item is the approval of the agenda, and I have an addition item to item 7. Item 15X is going to, and I'm going to read the language I want to, for the item. It says, approval of field trip request of overnight field trips and trip exceeding 100 miles per administrative regulation 6153, and some item 15XA, Novato High School Wrestling going to Clovis, California, December 27 and 28. So I need that item added in for the approval of the agenda. So as the agenda as is plus item 15X. So I need a motion to that effect. Trustee making the motion.
I will move that we add the item to the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Trustee Nell, and a second by Trustee Mack. And all in favor of the agenda order of business for tonight. So advisory, Danny, thank you, and 7 trustees in favor. So that means we have rearranged the agenda tonight. We've added one additional item, and we'll take up that during consent. The approval. Okay, the next item is the reorganization of the board. It's been a year while I've been holding the gavel and running these meetings, and it's time for this board to do their annual reorganization. So the first step is for the board president, myself, to call for nominations for the person to serve as board president for the next year. So I will do that. Trustee Jacobson, I see your hand in the air. Yes?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Trustee Nell for president of the board.
And do I have a second? Trustee Aguilar, I see a second with a motion and a second. Any other nominations? If not, we'll vote on Trustee Nell taking over as president for the next year. All in favor? Advisory, Danny, thank you very much, and 7 trustees in favor. And with that, Trustee Nell, this is now your chair, and I'm going to move down the table. And the rest of the agenda will be conducted by our new president, Trustee Nell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Millerick.
I'm taking the cookies. And my COVID test.
So I just, first of all, just wanted to thank the board for this honor, and I will do my best to represent you and act as parliamentarian. And again, appreciate the honor, and we should move forward now. So following the annual reorganization, as board president, I would like to call for a motion to elect a new board clerk vice president. So Trustee Mack, and give me a few minutes to get adjusted to the position and so forth. It's been a few years since I've been president, so I have a first. Your nomination is?
Well, I'll make the motion. No, I'd like to nominate Debbie Butler to be the vice president clerk for the next term.
Okay. Do I have a second? I have a second.
I will second that motion.
Second from Trustee Milrick. So I will call any other nominations or comments. Then I will call for a vote. So all those in favor of Trustee Butler becoming the new vice president and clerk? I see 7 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 advisory vote. So thank you all very much. And just to go on and continue on with the board organization, we will wait for the musical chairs. Make sure you get your cookies and so welcome, Trustee Butler. Any comment or?
No, I mean, just as you said, I appreciate the board allowing me to do this, and I will do it the best that I can. And I've been in this position before, so that's a little bit, hopefully that helps a little bit. And I look forward to serving with Trustee Nell in this partnership. And we've done it before. The two of us have been in this leadership role together as well. So thank you.
So we have one more final official business as part of the reorganization, and that is for us to call for a nomination to confirm our trustee representative to the Marin County School Board Association Board of Directors. So do we have any nominations for Marin County School Board?
Sure.
Trustee Aguila.
Would you like to do it?
I would love to.
Okay. So I would like to nominate our trustee to Judy to be able to do this, and you've done this before, yeah. So. Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a second for Trustee Jacobson? Trustee Milrick has seconded the nomination. So all those in favor of Trustee Jacobson being our representative at the county level? And that is a 7 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 in favor advisory. So thank you very much. And after completing the reorganization of the board, I think it'd be appropriate to take a few minutes and recognize the hard work that our former officers have put in during what, without question, is very difficult pandemic time. So Trustee Milrick, I just wanted to thank you for your hard work and consideration towards running the district this past year. I know it's been difficult, and we were lucky to have someone with your level of experience doing that. And I would then just check in with the rest of the board to see if there was anyone else who had comments regarding Trustee Milrick's service. Trustee Butler.
This is actually to both Ross and Diane. Thank you very much for your service in the leadership roles. You never know what to expect when you step into that role. You never know exactly what the year is going to be like. And you brought us through the pandemic, another part of the pandemic. Also, you brought us through the leadership changes that occurred later in the school year last year, which was difficult because one of those leadership changes was our superintendent, and that's the board's responsibility. And a lot of that fell on both of you. And so thank you for that work that you got us to this point. We have Superintendent Derby back here serving, which was the best choice for this district to bring us forward. So thank you for all your work you did this past year.
Trustee Mack.
I'll just be very quick. I just want to echo Trustee Butler's comments. Really appreciate you guys stepping up. Not only was it a lot of change, it was unprecedented. We were definitely venturing into territory we've never been before, and having to navigate it was no easy feat. And really appreciate the steady hand you guys provided, because it was definitely had definite potential for being very chaotic, and it wasn't. So thank you.
So just going down the table, Trustee Gasson, any comments for our former president here?
Just simple thank you. I know it's been a hard year for us, and I appreciate the opportunity to have worked with you.
Yeah, I thank you both. You definitely stepped up in so many ways over the last year, and you were very gracious and taught me so much also, which was not part of the role, but I appreciate it very much. And Trustee Miller, I appreciate sort of the steadiness in which you led us. Sometimes we got to hear a lot of things from you, which was fun, but you also made sure that things stayed within the confines of the structure of this. So thank you so much.
Yeah. So again, not much that I can say after everybody else said something, but I wanted to thank both of you for stepping up. And Diana, you worked really hard, and being your first time as vice president, I mean, you did a fantastic job. And so I look forward to seeing you as president very soon, next year or whatever. But thank you so much. And to you. To also, Ross, you've stepped up, and you've done this before many times, and I've always appreciated your the background that you bring to the district and your experience. And so, again, difficult times. It's difficult as I don't think the community realizes. Just as a regular board member, there's a lot of things that we do behind the scenes, but as president and as vice president, especially president, is just it's just amazing, all the hard work that goes behind the scenes. So we don't sometimes see it, but you managed to pull us out of the crisis, and I feel comfortable with where we are now with our new superintendent, new leadership. We've lost some major people here in the district office, and so lots of work ahead. But you put us in the right path. So thank you very much. And you've always had I've said this before. You've always had the students' interest in first. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep. Comments from our student trustee.
Thanks. Okay. Well,
One more comment.
Okay. Danny. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being such a great president and for really looking out for everybody. Even though I became a board member just this semester, it still was really nice seeing you in action and seeing what you and Diane do. So thank you.
You're welcome. And hopefully we get a chance to talk. So I have a couple of comments, Doctor. First, this isn't exactly the term that Diane and I served together in. This is as difficult a time as I've seen this district deal with. But on the two bookends for the time that we've spent, COVID-19 started before us, but clearly the impact that students, we were able to, because of this district's planning, every student had a Chromebook or a technical way of attending classroom. Within a couple of weeks of the day we shut the doors. That's amazing, and that's a credit to the work that's been done ahead. And our teachers stepped forward, and I met teachers in parking lots handing out supplies to students that were driving by. They were sitting on the tailgate of their SUVs handing out products so the students can do their work at home. So during this time, our teachers have done amazing work. And we've also, during that time, taken advantage of federal funds and been careful about not cutting staff back when we maybe could have. And we've run a deficit, but we also kept people employed when other employees were sending them down the street to collect unemployment. So this is, and Nevada Unified School District is the largest payroll in the city of Novato. We are the primary employer in this town. So during that time, this district, and we've also served 2,500 meals, 25,000 meals a month to students, plus running food banks on 3 of our sites. So during this time when the entire community has been stressed, this district led by this board has stepped up and made sure that there were as best a solution as we possibly can. The other bookend on this that's exciting is that the San Marin Mustangs won the state championship. And if anybody wonders if we don't put kids first and we're not back to school, you should have been to the game this weekend. It was amazing, and this community is amazing, and the support that this community shows for its children is amazing. And it's clear we are coming out of this problem that we've had. We still have work to do. The work ahead of us, Trustee Butler and Trustee Nell, and the County Office of Education who's joining us this evening. We've partnered to deal with what's going to be a tough financial climb out of the problem. There is hard work that's a consequence of COVID and decisions not to cut payroll when we were in the middle of this, but now we have to step up to this problem and we have to right-size this district. So I pledge to both of you and to the superintendent my ongoing support to make sure that we address some very, very hard problems. It's the next step. It's what we have to do. Diane, I would like to thank you very much for a great year working together. This has been, I have never seen a challenge like this. You and I talked a while back, 30 years watching this big enterprise in Novato, and we have never had times as challenging as we're in right now. We all have to work together. We all have to focus on kids, but we also have to right-size the budget to make sure that we are successfully moving forward. So we have done some good work, but there's much more work ahead of us, and I pledge my support to you guys in as far as I can do in making that happen. Thank you.
So what I want to do is now go back to our to Trustee Gasson and thank her for a great year of service as our vice president. And Diane, you really were, like Ross, put in a difficult situation during a year that no one had ever experienced before. And I really think that you should be thanked sincerely for that effort. You're sincere, you're dedicated, you're hardworking, and we're all better off based on the work that you did as our vice president. The level of diligence that you applied has been very helpful for me personally, and I think that the community should recognize or be aware of the fact of how hard that you worked as our vice president, and I sincerely want to thank you for the work that you did and look forward to working with you for the following year. So thank you very much. Would any other trustee like to comment? Trustee Aguila.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add that Diane puts the school district first, and it's about the school district, it's about the students, and I recognize that. So thank you for doing that. And I just wanted to say I look forward to working with you, Trustee Nell, and of course with you. We've worked before together, and you know the ropes in and out. So this is good for the district, and so appreciate you, Debbie, and so look forward to working with both of you.
So, any more congratulations or thank yous for Trustee Gasson? If not, we have some presents for you. Yes. Okay. Some acknowledgements.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciation.
Let's get a loaded photo of all of you.
But that's in the middle. Oh, you want to wait? No, you can be in the middle.
I'll plug into that.
Okay, in the back, okay.
Congratulations.
I'd say smile, but
Yeah, well.
hard to tell. Good to tell, though.
Thank you. Very much. Smile with your eyes.
Okay, so we have completed item 8, the annual reorganization of our board. And it is now item number 9, public comment on our consent agenda. And there is no public comment on our consent agenda tonight, so we will move directly to item 10. And item 10 is approval of the consent agenda. And before I ask the board for a motion or comments, I do want to make you aware that we have some addendums on your table. These are listed as, I wrote, yes, item 15, items Q, R, X, and XA have had some clerical addendums and work done to them. So I wanted to make you aware that the newer updated versions will be part of the motion that I'm going to be asking for. So would in addition to the addendums at the beginning of the meeting, we added an item as well. So that was the field trip item. All right, so does anyone on the board have any questions, comments on tonight's consent agenda? Trustee Aguila.
Is this the part where we can pull?
This is the part.
Okay, so I'd like to pull item on the consent agenda 15, item F.
That's F.
FA, the board policy 1313, civility.
So, okay. Do we have any other items on tonight's consent agenda that the board would like to address prior to passage?
I do.
Trustee Gassan.
But so which one did you pull?
15F,
Oh,
15 consent, and then letter F,
okay.
and then A.
Oh, I
The
see.
board policy.
Board policy 1313, civility.
Okay, sorry. I didn't, because, so I'm going to do item H, A.
Okay, so we have full item HA, and just A, not just, okay, just A, very good. Okay, so can I ask for a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as amended to include Q, R, X, X, and A, with items HA pulled and items FA pulled? So I have a first from Trustee Jacobson, a second from Trustee Milrick, and I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
And that included with item X,
amended.
right? Item X was included.
Yes, it was.
Yes, sir. Okay.
So I have 7 in favor and 1 advisory vote and no nays. Okay, so then let's take item FA first. Trustee Aguila, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I appreciate this policy and like to support it and approve it, but there's two small changes that I'd like to bring up, and that's 1313 civility. So second paragraph, it says the board understands that the First Amendment provides strong protection for speech. However, the board expects that all speech and expressions will comfort with norms of civil behavior and district grounds. So the first sentence, the board understands that the First Amendment provides strong protection of speech. So yes. And then however, so we can, there's no however. If we get rid of however and then just say add the board expects that all speech and expressions will by all, so add all. So it's everybody's included. And that's it.
So we have a motion to amend the board policy, the rewording, questions about the rewording from trustees. Is it? Maybe read that.
The board understands, so it would read, the board understands that the First Amendment provides strong protection for speech, which is what it says. The board expects that all speech by all will comfort, so just add the word all. So it includes everybody.
The word however.
I think she's wanting to add all people, not just all speech, if that's correct.
It's all speech and all people. So, however, the board expects that all speech and expression by all will comfort with norms, or we can just say, the board expects that all speech and expressions will comfort with norms of civil behavior by all on district grounds. I just want to make sure that it's everybody.
Trustee Gasson.
However, so thank you, Trustee Jacobson, for pulling this up. So how about, however, the board expects that everyone's speech and expression will comport with norms of civil behavior?
But, so I want to get rid of however, because then it deletes the whole purpose, the first sentence. And I like the first sentence, it's perfect.
No, I was just making it, so the second would be, the board expects that everyone's speech and expression.
That's fine.
That includes everyone.
That's fine.
I'm indifferent.
I'll be fine, I think that sounds good too.
So, is there any objection to there's a consensus on the phrasing? This is the second reading, so this would basically be a final adoption of the policy. So what I want to do now is I want to check with staff just to see if there would be any conflict or concern if we were to make this change. So does staff have any?
I think it's fine.
It's very good. So then, would you like to make a motion to adopt consent item FA as amended?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to delete the word however and add the word all to the second paragraph of the policy 1313, civility.
So I need a second for that motion. Do we have a second? Trustee Aguila, we do not have a second. Do we have a motion to adopt the policy as written? Nothing? So seems like we're not in agreement on the policy as written, or are we willing to accept?
So how about this? So everybody agrees with the first paragraph, first sentence on the second paragraph. The board understands that the First Amendment provides strong protection for speech. So if we all agree with that, then I'll just make the change to get rid of however, and then just leave the board, just get rid of the word however.
I'll second that.
Okay, so I have a motion to amend Board Policy 1313, removing the word however, and I would like to call the question. So all those in favor as amended? 7-4, 0 against, and 1 advisory. All right, thank you very much. And we will now move to HA, which is the Board Policy 6020, Parent Involvement. Trustee Gasson, you had a comment or question?
Yes, thank you. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is just mention, I saw Jen Larson was here. Since this is being replaced, you don't need to come up. I just wanted to make note that there's some things in here that I'm hoping you and I can just meet just to see what we're doing. There's within the first paragraph, it mentions policy development and making sure that we're including parent voice and things like that. So I just wanted to bring it to our, to light and just make sure that we are proceeding with what we're passing tonight or doing. So that was all. Just, thank you. So I make a motion to approve the policy 6020 parent involvement as presented.
Second by Trustee Milrick. And before we vote, I just want to say that this particular item is an update in itself, and it's always, if we are to find language or policy that we disagree with or are concerned about or have questions about, it's certainly within our authority to bring it back to the attention of the board and be discussed at a later date. So I appreciate Trustee Guess on bringing up the issue, and I will now call the question. All those in favor? I have 7-4, 0 against, and 1 advisory yes. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. So we can move on. So it's presentation time, item 11, and tonight we have Tarina Mars from the Marin County Office of Education to present and discuss our budget. Welcome.
Good evening. President Nell, members of the board, Superintendent Latore. I'm back. So I've been coming, my glasses are fogging.
Yeah, it's always a problem.
So I've been coming typically with Assistant Superintendent Kate Lane, who is in charge of our business services. Tonight she is presenting in front of the Ross Valley School Board. So when there's competing board meetings, we split and go in different directions. As we promised early on when we first stepped in, we would come before the board on a monthly basis. And tonight, this board will entertain the adoption of your first interim budget. And it's the first time the board will have an opportunity to look at a revision to your budget that was adopted in June. And what we've been saying all along, I think you'll see in your document that it pretty much affirms some of our high-level concerns. And so I'm just going to make a couple of comments. I have no presentation tonight, and then I'll be happy to answer a few questions. So what we saw, and this is prior to our deep analysis, was that the first interim does in fact confirm that the district has a structural deficit, and that's a structural problem within your budget that will only worsen over time if your parcel tax isn't adopted. We also note that it appears your enrollment has stabilized. So at the beginning of the year, it was kind of hard to get a handle on where your enrollment was. It has definitely stabilized, so that's the good news. The bad news is it does in fact confirm that you are down a significant number of students that will have an impact on your revenues for next year. Also on tonight's agenda, we note that you have a budget resolution, and we highly encourage you to consider this resolution and pass it. It identifies that the size of your structural deficit, which is a really effective way for the board to communicate to the community exactly what you're up against. And once you can identify the problem, that's the first and most important step to addressing it and solving it. The second part is we recognize you have a budget advisory committee that's been hard at work under the leadership of your Assistant Superintendent for Business, Lois Stranding. We really sincerely appreciate the cooperation that your office has given us as a county office. We've been working very closely with your superintendent and with your district business office. The resolution identifies a $3.8 million problem and proposes $4 million in solutions for the 22-23 year. We also recognize you have a longer-term problem that you'll be addressing over time, but that's at least identifying next year's problem. The first interim budget that's presented for you that you'll hear later is very comprehensive, and it includes a multi-year projection that changes and I should say confirms, what we suspected you probably are really looking at in 23-24. Instead of a $4 million deficit in 23-24, you have an $8 million deficit. So this is not a one-year fix, it's a multi-year fix. And the good news is that you're responding to this now so that you can stage your budget reduction plan over time. And then lastly, and I think you all know this, that we review your budget and you guys get a letter from us 3 times a year. This letter will come to you mid-January. And I would imagine it would be included in your board packet for your June 25th board meeting. That's also the time that we note that you will be hearing from the Budget Advisory Committee on budget reduction recommendations. We're very pleased that you're taking these constructive steps to address this. We also recognize it's really hard work. And nothing, these are not the kinds of activities that anyone looks forward to, but we do know one thing for sure is by acting early the way you are, you're going to smooth out this course correction and correct your structural budget problem over time instead of having it happen all at once, which is very disruptive to children. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So, do we have any questions? We do, Trustee Jacobson.
It's not, I'm random. I'm wondering if I can come meet with you, because I'd like to learn more about some of the ways in which you interact with all of the districts in the county.
Sure.
On a financial basis. I know that payroll is one place where there's some interplay, and I'd just like to learn more.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we thank you for coming and appreciate your oversight on these issues and your support. Going forward, we're probably going to need as much help as we can to make sure as we make decisions that we're doing them appropriately, transparently, and with students in mind. And so any advice and support that you guys can give us will be appreciated. So thank you very much.
I think you have.
Oh, I do have questions.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, I
Get
just-
your hands up sooner because I'm going to.
Yeah, I got it. You're moving fast.
Right, so Trustee Miller, I'm going to recognize Trustee Aguila first.
Okay. I just wanted to ask a question to our superintendent, and I think I know the answer, but I wanted to just make sure to keep the community involved and on how, if the community wants to know what steps we're doing and how we're doing right now and what, the last report that was brought to us, where can they go and if it's the website, then also would it be in Spanish and so on. So just how can the community, how I know we're being transparent, but I just want to know how can the community.
Yeah, so Leslie and I have been going to PTAs, and so we're doing presentations at all of the PTAs. In fact, Thursday night we're going to Lou Sutton, and everything was just translated. My presentation was translated, and once we have January behind us and we have presented to the board the cuts and everything, then we're going to do some community forums, larger community forums, and so we'll have that as well.
Yeah.
And translations will be provided.
Great, thank you. And the one in Lusatin this Thursday is going to be in Zoom.
Yes, it is Zoom.
Okay, great, thank you.
Actually, I'm going to Trustee Miller and then Trustee Butler.
Karina, thank you very much for participating with us in this. This is, as you have said, extremely difficult, hard work. We have some catch-up to do, stuff that with COVID got clouded. But we are full in on this exercise. 2 of us sit on the Budget Advisory, which will be coming back in January. And we have every commitment to make sure that we are right side up and this district stands whole. So thank you for your participation in helping us get there.
On the 13th of January, we have a budget workshop scheduled with this board. Okay. Would you or Kate be a part of that participation?
Of course,
in that?
one of us will be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I want to make sure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
Jan, you'll get us the time. Okay.
Okay, so if I don't see you guys raise your hand, be sure to get my attention. I don't want to pass over anyone who wants an opportunity. So anyone else have any questions or comments for the county assistant superintendent? Seeing none, then I, again, will thank you for your support. And
Thank you and happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you and happy holidays.
So we are going to move on to announcements from the board, the superintendent, and our student board member. So I will turn it over to our student board member for any announcements that she would like to make.
Okay, so we had a holiday spirit week last week, and it went well. We also had our menstrual drive-in. I don't know how to call it, but it's almost like the canned food drive, but it was for feminine products. And I don't remember who won, but I know that the seniors and the sophomores were really going at it, and we had over, I think, 1,000 donations from that, over a lot. We had wintergrams as well, and those went well. We handed them out yesterday. ASB made 1,450 cards for each student and each staff member. And then MSA concerts for last week, and then MSA soiree and market is Friday. It's this Friday, actually, the 17th. Well, we have finals week this week, and today was our first finals of first period and third period. The schedule is kind of rough since we're not getting out at lunchtime like San Marin is, but we are kind of grateful for having such an amazing schedule. Not really, but that's as far as I've got.
All right, thank you. Trustee Milrick.
No comments. Thank you very much.
Trustee Aguila.
I'm so sorry that I missed the district leadership team, the holiday open house at your home. So I actually was on my way, and I had a car issues. So, but I thank you for putting that together, you and I'm sure Ellen. So, thank you.
So our last board meeting was November 14th, which feels so long ago. And I track all my time for my work stuff, and I add this as one. And I just realized I had 32 hours since then of board-related items. Marin Oaks did an amazing Thanksgiving. That was really fun. We did many of us were at Linwood for a video they did, which was beautiful. And they had some fantastic community members there that volunteered to put it together. Budget Advisory Committee, district leadership team. We honored some staff members at Modeling the Way. I'm also part of Leadership Novato, and it was Education Day. There were some great conversations that I hope will continue around College of Marin and NUSD partnering in a myriad of ways, and some great information at the CSBA conference last week. Thank you.
Trustee Gasson.
So I had the same realization, because I hope you'll indulge me. I have some stuff to share out, because it seems like forever ago. A lot of volunteering opportunities, it's been great to get out into the campuses and actually see the kids' performances and musical performances and things. And my daughter's in the same boat. She's thrilled that it's a short week, or, it's finals, but getting out of school a little bit early. And I've just been admiring the kids' resistance and perseverance with having masks on in their class and doing, all these activities and stuff. Loved the Modeling the Way presentations. That was my first time. And Jan, or Dr. Derby, thank you. You do a great job with those. The Linwood Dual Immersion videotape was great. And you can find that by searching YouTube, Linwood Elementary promotional video. I want to make sure we get out there and spread the word about our great program. It was a really nice video that was done. I attended my first district special education advisory committee meeting last week, and I want to share appreciation for the staff and the committee members that were there. NUSD has 1,065 kids currently being supported with services, which is about 100 more students than last year. However, when you take into consideration our declining enrollment, the district is now serving approximately 15% of our student body versus about 12% before. And we had a School Services of California report that was done on April 2nd, 2019, and they had mentioned that we had an upward trend here at our district, which is clearly happening. But we're also having a challenge finding some staff for our paraeducators, and so if anyone is interested or knows anyone that might be willing to come work at our wonderful district, there's information about those job availabilities out on our website. And there was also, during that meeting, dedication to special education. Let us know that they filled 13 grant requests to teachers and staff in our district. And those grants amounted to $12,410. They are currently holding a raffle to help get more money to give to schools through a Toyota. There's a raffle for a Toyota RAV4 hybrid that was donated by Toyota of Marin, and you can get information about that through specialed.org/raffle. And then JLAC last week, appreciated the updates we get from the consultants there, and one of the things they talked about was SPED, and they confirmed, then a separate thing that they were discussing was the ADA, and how we're funded here at Novato Unified. There is one other district that's consistently funded the same way, which is San Rafael City Schools. And then there's two that fluctuate between ADA and it's now called community funded, which used to be basic aid, which is actually harder when you fall in between those. But one of the things that I got from that and I wanted to share out to the board and just the community was the sense from these individuals was, Andrea Ball was mentioning that there's a lack of appreciation or understanding of what ADA does and how we're funded. And so it's creating the awareness with, like our senators and Congress people, because we just need to be better funded. This whole ADA thing that weighs so much on a student being in class every day is just hurting not just our district. And again, there's only two that are funded that way in Marin, but across the state. And so a lot of our financial challenges are related to that. And then just some items that are coming up. There's pediatric vaccination clinics at Novato High School this weekend from 9 to 5. Looking forward to seeing families there. I'll be there both mornings. And then San Jose Middle School is having a gift wrapping fundraiser this weekend. You can get information on that from elvesoncall.com. They'll wrap your presents for a small donation, and I'll be there. And then I'm doing a Gab with Gaston at Dr. Insomnia's on Thursday, January 6th at 9 a.m. So I look forward to seeing people there.
Thank you. I also attended the Aaron Ashley's session to put together the promotional video for Linwood. I really appreciate the structure she put around it. It was very, very organized. It's very professionally done. Looking forward to potentially extending this kind of methodology to our other elementaries, because it's all about showing the world what we can do and getting that ADA up. So definitely want to put a thank you out to Aaron Ashley and the gentleman whose name I can't remember who did the videography. Fantastic job, very professional guy. Juan Pablo. Thank you. Thank you. Beyond that, I did attend the PTA meeting at Hamilton, to a first of many, wherein we are going to the different sites to explain what this budget's all about, what's going on, what they can do. And there's a lot. So anyway, that's going to continue. You're going to hear a lot more about that. I'm planning to try to hit every single one that I can, just because I think it's important. And last but not least, and I think all of us were there, maybe not all of us, but come on, Saturday night, that was huge. So congratulations to the San Marin varsity football team for winning the first state championship in Novato history. Fantastic. I'd also like to say congratulations and thank you to the site for putting together an event that, I don't know, I've lived here 50 plus years. I don't think there's ever been an event bigger. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure. Maybe Blues by the Lake? Going way back there. But anyway, I think there was 3,000 people there. And thank you to the cooperation from the fire department, from NPD, from staff who came out in droves to help out. And it was a great event. It was very smooth. And what was anticipated to be a not so competitive game was a very competitive game, and it was a blast to watch. So once again, congratulations to all those players, all the staff members. You worked hard, and this is what you get. So I really appreciate it.
Sorry, we're boring everybody probably doing all these announcements, but we haven't met for a month, as you said. And I want to thank, though, Barbara Varankovich for being our interim assistant superintendent of HR. This is her last board meeting with us as in that role, but she's going to continue on as our helping us with legal counsel with negotiations. So thank you for your work here. You brought a breadth of experience to this district where we needed it the most, and you brought us through some difficult times, and we're still in those times. But we needed your experience, and we need that experience going forward. So hopefully we will be able to find that right person to fit this role in this position. But thank you. It put a calmness for me, at least, that you were handling everything and taking it on. Already, a lot of things were already in the middle of it, of the situation or what was going on. You had to jump in and try to take care of a lot of those things happening. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. Some of the celebration stuff I did was Modeling the Way, Novato tree lighting, MSA jazz concert, which was amazing, 1 hour of great jazz music. Marin football, as you said, I can't add too much more to that, but we went to the celebration. That was Friday night on the green at City Hall.
Right,
and then we went to the game, and which was just a lot of fun. It was just a great community event. I as well did the Hamilton PTA meeting, and then I did my monthly Efficiency and Effectiveness Committee collaboration and JLAC as well. I attended both of those. We are getting quite a bit of information regarding what the budget is going to potentially look like as the governor releases that in January. That also rolls into CSBA, our California School Board Association, which we're a part of, we're a membership of this district. We had a virtual conference, and that was Thursday and Friday. I was able to get through 6 workshops, and there's some that I typically like to go to, which are the politics and the financial piece, the budget of districts, there's always key people that I like to listen to. So I was able to attend both of those. There was one on student voice, which I attended, ethnic studies and critical race theory, a workforce housing panel. That was a district, and somebody that they're working with that is going through trying to use current property that they own and how to transform that into housing. And then a superintendent search workshop, which is from a search firm that I'm familiar with, and I just wanted to see, haven't used them, and I just wanted to see if they've gotten any better than what they were, just to see, and they have, I thought. So it was good to sit in on that. So it was very informative for me. It's our professional development as trustees, this virtual conference. It was held in San Diego, but we opted to not do that because just the travel and the cost to the district, so we did it virtually. And for me, it was just as good. I did miss interacting with other board members around the state and within our county, but the workshops were very informative for me. So that's it.
So as you say, it's been a month, and there's a lot going on, and I don't want to be too redundant, but I am obligated to report out to you as your representative that I did attend the School Fuel Public Education, Nevada Public Education Foundation board meeting. And they are working on ways for their upcoming showcase, et cetera. But I think what I'll just say about the School Fuel Foundation is that it's an excellent way to support public education here in Novato. And it's a very hard-working, dedicated group of people. And if anyone out there is still thinking about where their year-end donations might go, I think our Public School Education Foundation is an excellent place to start. And they'd be happy to have your help in granting funds to our teachers for a plethora of programs, et cetera. So a big thank you to School Fuel. I also attended the Joint Legislative Action Committee, known as JLAC. I appreciate Trustee Gasson and Trustee Butler for reporting on that as well. I want to thank the superintendent for hosting the leadership team annual dinner, I suppose we'll call it. Official, it was nothing official about it. It was a lot of fun, and it was great to get out and to meet and be with people after this long drawn out pandemic. And finally, I want to say something about San Marin and their victory as a state championship. As a former varsity football coach for that other schools whose colors are black and gold, who also in 2017 reached the state championship game, but unfortunately was not victorious. But we do have a strong interscholastic sports programs here in Marin and in Novato. It's important that public education do a good job with athletics and sports, because all the issues that we have in our culture today are mental health and just the diversion that goes on. These programs are excellent social experiences for our children, and I think they learn a great deal about life participating. And obviously the parents and staff that support these programs deserve our appreciation as well. So congratulations to San Marin High, and you've only probably just fired up the black and gold to do better, I hope. So look forward to that. Superintendent Derby.
Hey, I'm just going to ask, where's Leslie? Oh, she's already up, to come up, because we have, over the break, we have Binex kits for all of our students, 8,400 of them, and Leslie's coordinating the entire thing for the district, which is huge. She is doing so much work, and I just wanted to highlight her and the work that she's doing and what will be done so that we're safe coming back to school. So Leslie, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Derby. So this week, we're distributing more than 8,000 rapid antigen test kits to students and staff as part of an effort with the Marin County Office of Education, Marin Public Health, the California Department of Public Health, and Primary Health. That's a reporting agency that we're working with, in an effort to keep our schools safe after the winter break. And so we received the shipment last week on this huge pallet, and Art Plenifor with our maintenance and with our operations and fans counted them out and distributed them yesterday and today to all of our sites and our departments. And so they're going to be distributed this week to staff and students starting tomorrow through Friday. And we have instructions on how to test and report the results. And I've given you each a test kit and the instructions as well. And an email has been sent to all staff and to all families today. It's been posted on the NUSD website, and it will be pushed out on social media later this week. And I do want to mention that you may know that the state of California issued a new mask mandate yesterday that requires all individuals, regardless of vaccination status, to wear masks in all indoor public settings, and that goes into effect tomorrow and will probably last through January 15th. Right now, as you know, all of NUSD students require individuals to wear a mask indoors, so this probably affects our non-school locations.
But before you go, any questions for Leslie? Okay. Seeing none. All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Having concluded our announcements, let's move on to item 13, which is non-agenda public comment. This is where we take comments from the public on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Just want to remind our commenters that you have 3 minutes, and I'm going to have to stick to everyone getting an equal amount of time, so please do your best to stay within the 3 minutes. And just to remind everybody that because these are non-agendized items, the board cannot comment on anything on these comments tonight. That isn't mean that we're not listening or that we may inquire or take further action at a later date, but we won't be commenting. So I will begin with Michelle McIntyre. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. And Michael, you wrote very, very neatly. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
You too.
Yeah.
It's been a while. So while I agree with the comments that have been made about Santa Marin's football success. Yep.
Test, test. There we go.
There you go.
Tall guy.
Now it's flopping all over the place. All right, we'll try again. So while I agree with the comments I've heard about Santa Marin's football success, I find them ironic given the incident that's led me to be here tonight. As you probably know already, yesterday a late announcement and action was taken to turn off the pool heater at Novato High School. This was done despite the fact that there was an active and planned open pool program for Novato High students that had arranged pool time through coordination with both the San Marin and Novato athletic directors. This took the volunteers as well as participating students and their families by complete and utter surprise. Strong parent and student reaction seems to have reversed the decision, but for me and others, this is just the latest string of action and inaction involving Novato administration and district staff at the expense of our students. There are serious ongoing issues of leadership, transparency, and community involvement. Now, my comments are not about the intent of these individuals, but they are about the actions that we're seeing. Local site admin and district staff are actively undermining the athletic director that we fought so hard to put in place there. They're putting up roadblocks and hurdles for coaches to navigate at the expense of our student athletes. Some examples: unreasonable key policy for coaches, forcing the AD to open and close all the athletic facilities. Lack of transparency for gate fee collections and challenges to using them for their intended purposes. Objections to home game policy changes to encourage student and community participation. Lack of action after Novato High suicides and lack of recognition of the impact on students and coaches. Somehow, Novato leadership and district staff are still not making the connection between how you support students and community and how that drives the support for NUSD. Incoming students are already self-selecting away from Novato, and yesterday's actions are driving students to think about transferring to schools that will better support them. 16 years ago, my wife and I were concerned about our local elementary school. We met with Superintendent Latori Derby then, and she challenged us to try to effect the change that we wanted to see. Since then, we've been active supporters of NUSD in our local schools. We give money, give time, we find resources, and we actively encourage other people to do the same thing. Yesterday was the first time that I have considered not voting for a parcel tax or bond measure. And it's because of what happened yesterday.
All right, thank you. I also wanted just to remind the speakers that you're welcome and encouraged to submit any comments, your comments in writing or any backup material that you might have. We would enjoy receiving that. Next is Greg Truex.
Great.
Good evening. My name's Gray Truex. I'm a parent. I'm an active community. I'm also a coach. And I'm just going to make one comment, and it's transparency. The actions that have occurred, not just last evening, but over time, with the administration at Novato High School and the district, have not included the public. And the most important thing, everything that is done at this school is for the students. The students need to be aware, the parents need to be aware, the staff and the coaches need to be aware. So I implore you as a board to look at this closely and act on it and make sure that in the future, this transparency is brought to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Spiro Strategos. Thank you. Spiro, if you could give us your name, appreciate it.
Oh, sure. It's Spiro Strategos.
Thank you.
The board and superintendent, I appreciate you guys having the time, allowing us to speak. And I think it was very eloquently already spoken of what I'm here for in regards to the pool. I do want to let you guys know that, you know, my family, my 2 children have gone through the Novato School District. It was important that they went to public school. That was a criteria for us. And the school here, the schools have done their job. We have strong students. And one of the most important parts of that was that we had also strong academic, outside of academics as well. So sports, music programs are all very important and should be considered that. So with administration fighting those or acting as if to be dumb to it or unable to do anything about it was very sad yesterday. To have an administrator play dumb. Just not something, you know, come with the information. Allow them to speak then. I don't know, someone tying their arms, it was very unclear and very sad. And for an administrator to feel that they were hurt, their personal feelings were hurt, was sad. Because we as parents are there and I think the administration should be there to support our children. And and as I said, we've been very fortunate. But yesterday was a very sad day. And I'm glad that they took our feedback and they made some changes, but I hope that they'll keep those changes. My children will be gone. I'll be a resident of Novato for many, many years. And I hope that you guys continue to watch and eyefully look at that. I know that academics in schools are very important. That's what gets kids to stay in our district, but also sports, as you all have said. When you look at Marin and their success, and when you look at our aquatics program from pool, the pool, swimming, and water polo, my son went through both of those programs and will finish this year having played water polo and done swimming. And those were very important parts of his life. And his coach and coaches were a very important part of his life because they allowed him to strive to do better. And I thank them, and I thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And our fourth and final speaker tonight is Hannah Nichols.
Hi. Sorry. Okay. I'd like to start by talking about how much the pool means to me, but not just me, every swimmer on the team. The pool is somewhere where we as student athletes can be completely free. We are able to let go of the stresses of our day and focus on what we have control over. It is a place where I have met and become closer to so many people, a place where I am able to give all that I have each day, a place where I can completely focus on my success and push myself. The differences in academics, I see differences in academics. The pool allows me a place where I can slow down. When I'm done with practice, I'm able to focus on my academics. When I'm less stressed, I see a direct correlation to my grades. The pool is somewhere where I can be myself and focus on my mental and physical health. Going to practice means that the second I step onto the pool deck, I am able to let go. Being part of the swim community is a huge part of my life. The people I have met, I feel completely comfortable and safe around. The community and safety that has been created by the Novato High swim environment, thanks to Denise McIntyre and Polly Mora, the equal dedication to every athlete is truly inspiring. It is something I look up to. I am grateful for our pool to be open. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments this evening. Okay, so since that was our last speaker, we're going to move on to our next agenda item, and that is going to be discussion action, item 14, and our first discussion action item Our first discussion action will be A, approval of the 2021-2022 first interim budget report. And our Chief Financial Officer will present.
Good evening. So it is a very important financial time for Novato. We understand, as Tarina from the county retold us again, we're in a spot that we need to do some work. So, and first interim is something we were waiting for. It comes at a time, let me move. So we do first interim because it's a requirement. It's something the county looks at to see where we stand. It's different this time of year because the books have closed, so balances have moved forward. We know what our carryover amounts are. We know what we have to spend. We have updated final information on staffing and student enrollment for the year that wasn't available at budget adoption. At budget adoption, it was our best guess. So we've been able to use the current figures for that. And we've updated budgets to what we think at this point is the most reasonable picture for the rest of this year. So the numbers that we're going to look at or that you see in your packet are a reflection of all of these different changes and different situational information from when we adopted the budget back in June. And so what should we focus on in first interim? One of the first things is looking at what the significant changes are. How is this different than adopted budget? And I'll go through a few of those. You have more detail in your packet in the narrative about what those are. And then, most importantly, what does the multi-year projection tell us? And with revised staffing, revised expenditure numbers, revised enrollment, it changes the multi-year from what you saw at adopted budget. And then most importantly for Novato now is how does this information set us up for moving forward? This is a train that we're moving and steering and going to get to the right station. So the significant changes, and I apologize that this print is so small. So we did a lot of adjusting and cleanup of positions that we froze, that we didn't hire, a lot of admin positions we did not hire this year. And when all was said and done for certificated, classified, and their benefits, it saved us $2.3 million. So that's quite significant. Part of that is we were able to shift some of the costs to COVID money, other categorical money. So that was some savings. And then just general budget cleanup on actual staffing. We had our estimates at a budget adoption, and then as reality for the year came in, benefits and actual staffing could be adjusted to meet what, now we know what it's going to cost us. So we were able to trim budgets there. So that number was a significant number down. Supplies and services increased by $635,000. Some of that is new budgets for carryover dollars, and we also did a deliberate budgeting of money to refresh staff devices. That's something that has been not a priority in the district in the past, but it is something that we need to make sure we fund, is that all of our staff members have working devices. And another thing is we have one special this year grants from special ed. And so there was one where we were actually able to take an expenditure and have it covered by this grant. So we were able to decrease our contribution to special ed by $115,000. And that's not always something we can claim. Any questions on this or anything you saw in your packet in this area? Debbie?
I guess so. Well, you're saying that you shifted some things to COVID and you have a one-time with special ed, a savings there. So I'm assuming in our multi-year, you have put that all you've adjusted that because this is one-time money.
Correct.
So I think we need to be mindful of that one time is one and done. It's gone.
Exactly. It's helpful, but not a solution.
So these are great solutions, but it's not for forever.
Right. This is explaining how this year is, but we don't make those same assumptions for the 2 years out.
Okay, thank you.
And that's where we'll go now. So, which you've probably learned by now, but just in case you don't, I like to focus on the unrestricted because that really tells the story. Restricted is money that we have and we can only spend as much as we have, so it's not really a place where we can fix our budget. We have to be mindful we don't overspend, and then we would end up contributing from general fund. So it is unrestricted that we have to look at with the idea that the contribution number that's within restricted special ed is where it affects the unrestricted side of the budget. But we can see that as we look in the numbers and see the contribution from unrestricted to restricted. So as you look across this, if we just look at this year, there's a summary here of what it looks like. We have $75 million. I don't know does that show? No, that doesn't show. We have $75 million in revenue in that first column, first bold, total revenues, and total expenditures of, can I read that? 59. So that's quite a big excess. But then, of course, we have the total sources and uses, which includes the contribution to special ed, as well as contribution for our maintenance and operations budget, and then other smaller amounts to the programs. There's a list in your narrative of what our different contributions are. But it still takes us to a $2.6 million excess for this year. So that's a nice, healthy budget for this year. But remember, we're still basing this year on the hold harmless ADA. So we have a boost in revenue that you see when you move over to the second column doesn't exist in 22-23. We go from 73 million in revenue for LCFF down to 70.9. And that is partially based on, it is all based on declining enrollment. Even though there is an increase, a small COLA applied to this, but our cliff, our ADA cliff, because now we're back to what our actual ADA is projected for next year, we actually get to use this year because it's a little higher, but this year is still quite a bit lower than 2 years ago. So our revenue number significantly lower. And our expenses aren't hugely greater, but they are greater. We have step and column, we have increased pension, and then some just cost of living increases applied to supplies and operations. So it takes us, and I will tell you that on this slide, the excess, those are all excess. Please ignore the parentheses on the two $10 million figures. Those are positive figures in your presentation. So we still have an excess, but you can see the total sources and uses grows quite a bit. In the second year, that's a combination of all of what's been before with a cost of living and no help of the $115,000, and it takes us to the $3.8 million deficit that Tarina was mentioning. And then in the third year, we have the same kind of situation, but see how the contribution figure jumps to, I think it's 19? That 19 shows the contribution we're having to make. Parcel tax is considered restricted. So the way this financial statement shows if you saw the restricted side, you'd see a decrease in revenue. But the way we have to balance the budget is, at this point, we're still assuming all those expenditures will happen. So we are making a contribution from the general unrestricted fund to cover those costs. So that's why that number jumps up to the 19 million, giving us over $8 million in deficit. So if you take away the 4.1 parcel tax contribution, we're pretty much stable little bit higher, but we're pretty much stable in our deficit, which is what speaks to the $4 million in the resolution that you'll be considering in the next item. Okay. Oh, and the other thing I wanted to say is we still get to say we're positive. We have these huge deficits, but thanks to our large reserves we've been able to accumulate over the last few years, we still can meet our minimum reserve for this year and the next 2 years. So that's a lovely thing. We don't have to worry about being negative or we are positive, so that's good. Any questions on this slide?
Trustee Miller.
Yeah, I'm gonna, so to be, this, where am I? This number here, this 2,654,000, I'm looking there because I don't see it printed. That's positive. That means our income for this year is more than our outgo for this year.
Correct.
Is that a correct statement?
That is a correct statement.
Okay, and then the number right next to it is 3798. The parentheses really do belong on that number?
They do, unfortunately.
So basically between now and next year, that is $4, $5, $6 million difference. Is that it? I'm trying to do the math in my head, and
Yes.
so we're gonna, this year to next year, we're gonna take a hit of $6 million. And why is it worse next year than this year?
Well, mostly the ADA cliff, if you look up, I mean, you can talk about it in a simple way. The difference between revenues and expenditures is changing, and revenue is going down significantly. You can see from 73.3 to 70.9. So what is that? Almost $3 million?
Okay, so revenue goes down by $3 million because we can't count, we have to use current kids instead of the prior 2 years because we were protected from COVID.
We get to use, most likely get to use this year's actual,
Yeah.
not the hold harmless, because we can use the higher of the previous year or the current year, and this year most likely will be higher than next year.
But it's still $3 million difference, so what?
Yes.
What that means we were using an earlier number before COVID?
We've been able to use 1920 for 2 years.
Because of COVID protection. So basically we've been losing students this whole time.
Correct.
What we're seeing here is it all shows up at once because we lose the hold harmless provision and then we sort of just fall through the floor. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that is a correct statement.
So I get the revenue side. Now the expense side, $2 million, about $2 million in expense.
Yes. And then you can also see down below, the sources and uses, contributions have increased by
$2 million.
a little bit, yeah, around that,
So that's the unrestricted part pulling, so there's $4 million there. So we're having this conversation about, so the first column we're stuck with, we're almost at the end of that fiscal year, right? This column here, this is just what we're doing right now.
Correct.
It's already December, we're halfway through the year, right?
Yeah, getting there. Yes, first semester's almost over.
I mean, we can't change those numbers very much, but so we're really talking about the column in the blue. What can we do about that column? And we're facing increased cost and reduced revenue both. The stories you're telling me. I mean,
Yes.
that's the story I see.
Yes,
on
and that second column reflects all current positions that are filled as well as all frozen positions that aren't filled this year. Because a frozen position is not a budget reduction, so many of those frozen positions will appear on the reduction list. And then when and if those reductions are approved, then that will lower the expenditure numbers in the second column.
So it really is a budget number. If I plan for a position now, it's in this number, and
Yes.
even if I don't fill it, That's not in this number.
Till the board approves a reduction, yes.
Yeah,
it
we have
shows
to
in the
get rid of
future
the
year.
position, even though there's nobody in it. We have to do that
Correct.
process. And
Correct.
that's what you're going to be asking us to do here sort of pretty fast, right?
Next month.
Yeah, okay. We get Christmas, okay, got it, okay. And so we're looking, and then the third column is grim, but it's because it assumes the parcel tax isn't getting renewed.
Correct.
So we have a whole bunch we have to get done in a hurry right in front of us, starting January. And even after we finish that, we either have to pass the parcel tax or do it all over again, even in a, more draconian way. That's the story I see on there. Is that a fair story?
Fairly accurate, yes.
Okay.
So we have
Thank you for the clarification.
question from Trustee Gasson.
Actually, it was more of a comment and something that between the two of you triggered it for me. I think another way to look at it, and maybe it was just when you were explaining, so let's just go with the middle column. Yeah, we're losing revenue because of the decline in enrollment, but if you just took revenues and expenses, our revenue's coming in above our normal expenses. What's really hitting us is all of these the transfers to the restricted funds. So those are the things that are, like in a normal world, we were bringing in the revenue and we have the expenses, but then we're being pulled by these other factors.
Yes, other than I would say to just clarify what you're saying, it's not anything new.
No, it's not new.
Yes.
But when people say, we've got, the income and the expenses, but it's these other, this list that you have of things that we're having to transfer money to support.
But they aren't choices. I mean, we have our restricted routine maintenance that we have to contribute to, and we have to maintain special education.
Right. No, it wasn't to say we could get, but I don't know. It just put a different perspective for me when I was looking at, we're not in a great situation, but at the same time, there are certain things that we just cannot change.
Right.
And those are the things that are really binding us, I guess I would say, is making.
Well, I can make a blanket statement that if special education were fully funded, we would not be in trouble.
Right.
But it's not, and never has been.
And actually, we, through JLAC, I actually shared with the Special Education Advisory Committee the information on how the federal government is not holding up their promise to what they were supposed to be funding. And so that's an added, component to why this is also challenging. So,
correct.
In addition to the PERS and STIRS.
So can I just check with Lois to make sure that Trustee Milker has another question, but you have more to go on your presentation?
Not much.
Okay.
But
Trustee Miller?
Okay, one quick comment. I want to make sure nobody in this room thinks that we're going to blame one small group of kids for causing our fiscal problem.
No.
So anytime somebody says, well, we wouldn't have a problem but for, and then names a group of swimmers or whatever it might be, that's not okay. So I'm just want us to be careful about the way we use language.
Yeah, no, I think, the clarification would be that it's the mandate without the funding, what we're required to do for the special education children
and what is the right thing to do also.
Okay,
not just
so
what is required.
ready to go on? Oh, Trustee Mack, question.
Just a minor suggestion that might help. We have forgive me, I forget the exact percentage, but percentage reserve number we're always trying to achieve. And any kind of a reflection of that, where we are in each of these years would be helpful. That's all. In terms of where we are in terms of reserves.
It's not on top of my head. I put it in the narrative. I believe we're right at about 17%
Which
for
is our
this
number,
year.
right? Yeah.
For this year.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, and it'd be helpful for us to always go back to that number with every one of these columns so we can see where we are.
I get
trying to
what you're
hold
saying now.
ourselves to that.
Okay,
That's
to add something to the bottom reflecting that. Got
yes,
it.
Just help me. Thank you.
Certainly, we can do that. And I think it's really important also to just look ahead in the sense of, here's a problem, but we're working to to make a difference. We have our Budget Advisory Committee. You will be seeing a reduction list that the committee will be finalizing on January 6th. You'll see it, I believe it's on the 18th, in a workshop, and then you'll be voting on it on the 25th. And the Budget Advisory Committee, that is what Trustee Millerick was referring to as hurry up. That's what we're looking at to try and adjust 22, 23 so that we aren't in such a state. The earlier you fix it, the better off you are, because then it's fixed going forward. But the Budget Advisory Committee is also committed to more long-term changes. I mean, those will be long-term changes, but more structural long-term changes, actually talking about things that with a year or two of planning, we could change how the district is configured and save money. So we have started to have those conversations, but they're much bigger conversations and take much more planning. We pretty much have decided the Budget Advisory Committee will continue to meet and try and develop those kinds of things to bring to the board. And then on top of that, we have the work we're starting to plan for how we're going to approach the parcel tax issue and how we're going to bring the community in and make a plan. So this is all kind of happening together to try and bring the district to where it needs to be financially. I also put in a slide of the multi-year combined restricted and unrestricted, and I only did this to show you that there's not that much difference if you look down at, God, without my glasses, it's just, whoop, sorry. It's not that different. There's a little bit of, there it is, the excess. You have 3.2 in the second column and 8.2 in the far column. So the same pattern holds. There is some effect of the restricted money that is poured into this one, but generally the restricted is more of a wash than anything. That's my point with this slide. And this is just a slide to show the components of the ending fund balance. We're ending, or projected to be ending, 21-22 with over $23 million in the fund balance. I don't know when the last time Novato had a fund balance that large, but it's grown quite a bit in the last few years. And we have that divided out. Oh, what did I do now? There we go. Okay, we have that divided out with the restricted monies are about $6 million. And then 3% is $3 million. And then we have assigned, and assigned is where we put, at this point, we're saying 5% is in assigned. It's where extra lottery money is. We have put aside a spot for just more savings, depending on what happens with the parcel tax, because we don't know. So we're putting some money there, thinking about it. So all in all, we have this balances to the 23 million, and we still have 6.8 unassigned, but without anything happening, that will get sucked up unless we can fix that structural deficit. And then
I'm sorry, just
go ahead.
Then this is just going to be a rhetorical question. I just want to make sure it gets out there every single time we talk about this, so that everybody hears it. What's our run rate per month in salary and benefits and such, so that when you're talking about a 17% or whatever percent we're at right now, how many months of operating expense does that represent?
Well, I know a 3% is supposed to be 2 months, I believe. So what would that 17% would probably get you a year?
Okay.
But that's just salaries, right?
Yeah,
That's to keep the doors open, I believe. And I can look more closely into that, but it's...
Yeah, I was under the impression 17% was more like about 3 months worth of run rate.
I thought that was the 3%. I will find out for you.
Okay.
I will come back with that answer. And this slide is just a quick look. Another big part of this budget that I just don't want to ignore is our COVID relief funding. And you can go through these boxes and see what we've already spent is $7.8 million. That's gone out the door, bought many different things. What we have left to spend both in this year and next year is $12.5 million. And then each box shows the type of money. I don't know how much that means, but those are the different pots that we have left, all those different things. And what we have budgeted for this year already, not to say it'll all get spent, but what's in the budget, Ross's head is right in the way, $6.7 million, thank you. And then available for future years that we don't really have plans for at this point is $5.7 million. So there's still a significant amount of funding that we can make a real difference with. So we need to remember that that's there to plan with. Yes?
That's all restricted,
That is all restricted.
Okay.
But there are ways, I mean, we're buying, with ESSER2, we've ordered 10 new school buses. And that will make a huge difference in how we transport our kids as far as safely and reliably.
I was happy to see that. One of the questions, and I think I keep feeling like I have this incorrect. So going back to the ending fund balance and the monies that are in there, is there a rule now about how much we can have? I know
It's coming up. It's coming up next year. They've talked about it for years. They made these rules and they said, oh, it'll never be triggered. Well, apparently it's going to get triggered next year. And I'm not going to remember the percentage that they said we can have. But it's small.
Right.
It's small. And the way and I don't want to use the word workaround because it's not a workaround, the way one can legally and openly have higher funds is if you do what's called committing funds. And committing is board action saying what you are keeping those funds for. So as we move into next year's budget, that will be a conversation that we'll have to see how you want to handle that. Because you need to be able to explain to the public why you are keeping the reserves that you have. And you've talked about the 17%, so you have in your minds why it's important to have that. So we just need to be able to show it in our books.
Okay, thank you, because that was how I was reading it. And yet again, I think it's an example of, 3% requirement is ridiculous.
Yes.
It's especially for our size of a district, maybe for a small school, I don't know. But adding that extra, and they kind of do that in nonprofit accounting, is making you explain, why you have an excess amount of money because they don't, you're nonprofit, but it seems to kind of tie your hands. So the presumption I have is what you just said is then you just earmark it. And I then guess do you make an additional vote that, okay, say we saved it here, but we want to use it here kind of thing is.
And on this, what's called assigned, that is an informal way of earmarking it.
Got it.
But the
Okay.
committing is actually board action, and that money has to be used for that purpose unless the board takes action to change it.
Right, so the board can still take action to change.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not looking at having to, okay, thank you. I feel like 17% has been a target for this board, and I think it's a good one, and seeing some of the language and stuff was frustrating, I guess.
So Trustee Aguila, you have a question. I just want to let the board know that we have two public comments on this item. So Trustee Aguila.
Thank you. So I just wanted to ask our superintendent, Dr. Derby, if any people from the public has any questions about this. I know that we've met already with the community, talked about the funding, and as we're constantly updating and learning more and involving the community. When is the next time we're going to meet to include the community and we're going to?
Are you talking about LCAP?
A table workshop?
Oh, the community forums again?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll start those either at the end of January or beginning of February, as soon as we get some handle on what is the governor's budget. You're going to a workshop on the 17th of January?
I think it's the 21st.
21st. And then as soon as we have more information, then we'll get back out. And then Jen's going to convene the LCAP committee again for our LCFF. When will that be, Jen?
And that also starts at the end of January and the beginning of February, and will include parents, students, and community
And ELAC or DLAC, or, yeah. So there's going to be a lot of action between mid to end of January through March, so.
Great. And the community can always email or any questions. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
Also, the 13th, I think we should mention, the board workshop on January 13th.
Yeah, Debbie mentioned it at the beginning, but that's an important reminder. It's a 5 to 7. Yeah, and it'll be here, and it's a board workshop.
Is it the 13th or 18th?
It's the 13th.
The 13th, because we have a board meeting on the 11th, and then the 13th, and then,
Well, good to know the right date. I'll be there.
Yeah, well, that would be really good.
That's on the Thursday, and it's open to the community.
Yes.
Perfect.
It's an open forum.
Yes.
So I just want to check in with the board here. I believe that concludes the presentation. So the recommendation is to approve the first interim budget. You've had the detail, and just want to make sure that if you have any other clarifying questions, otherwise I would suggest maybe we take public comment at this time, and then we could deliberate and discuss our action. Okay. So we have 2 public comments on the first interim. And I'm sorry, we have 1, and then we'll have another comment later on item B. So I apologize, only 1 comment. So Mr. Alan Harris would like to comment.
It's the holiday season. So be of good cheer. I bring you glad tidings and good news. The remarks I had written out, I've reviewed the documents that constitute the first interim report and concur wholeheartedly with the recommendations of the superintendent and the staff, and encourage you to approve this so we can please the client, who is the County of Marin, in this financial journey. I sense from all of the size of this document and the things that I've had to go through and checking it out that you're probably bewildered by the avalanche of numbers and projections and everything. The staff has done an absolute marvelous job in documenting and making these numbers, they're real numbers. They're not made up or anything of that nature. On page 6 of the report, it shows that the approved budget last spring, before the books were closed, had a projected net increase or a net decrease in the fund balance of $5,059,000. Page 6, first column, third from the bottom, leaving a projected ending fund balance of $16 million. And when we closed the books last summer for the fiscal year, there was a sizable difference in improvement. I can't remember exactly how many millions it was, but it was $4 or $5 million. Now, staff has come forward with an interim report that shows there'll be a net improvement in the ending fund balance this year of $1,914,000, which leads you to the balance in your checking account, school district checking account, of $23 million. The rest are all projections. The numbers in the outgoing years do not include the impact of any of the recommendations before you in the next item. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll bring it back to the board for further comment and/or questions, and then we'll hopefully get to a motion on the recommendation. So Trustee Butler.
Just a comment in what I've been hearing with the conference that I attended, and then JLAC as well from our legislative consultant, is the surplus that is happening in the state with the personal property or personal tax that comes in. One of the taxes is personal. And there's like a $31 billion surplus right now. And so I think we need to be, that narrative that we put out there as a board, or when you're talking with budget advisory or with the community, any of us, that hey, you might be reading a headline that the state is flush with funds and the district is going to get all this money from this. And we truly are, we might get some. That's the unknown. We just don't know what's going to happen with that surplus. And so we hope, and I think what we can do as trustees and as community members, is advocate for the base funding, the local control funding formula base funding that we get. That's where this surplus needs to go. And it needs to help with the pension contribution that we have to contribute that continually increases. It needs to help with special ed. Those are three things right off the bat that we can suggest to either our legislature or anybody that you can get the word out of how you can help schools. Because right now the governor is interested in new programs, developing new ideas and what else he can create to put money towards, which we don't need one more new program to implement. We need to get this in our base. And what I heard, during the conference, we need to keep our lights on. We want to serve students, but we need to keep our lights on. And we just keep it simple. And that'll help every school district. So I think we need to you're going to see a headline that says the state has all this money, and you're going to think that it's going to come here. And it really is not the case right now. So that was just my soapbox.
So, Trustee Gasson.
I was just going to add on.
Trustee, I just want to quickly comment that I think to the superintendent that maybe we might add a presentation on Prop 98 to our community forums, because Trustee Butler does bring up a point that Prop 98 requires the state to spend X amount of dollars on public education. However, they make it their living up there to find ways to twist and turn that amount and to find out other excuses to spend money on things. Some in more need than others, of course, but I like Trustee Butler's point that we need to keep our lights on and to deal with some of the things that are outside our control. So
I appreciate that. I've been including that in the presentations at PTA to try to explain Prop 98 and the 48% that comes to public schools. But when we have all these reserves, it increases we can't go above the GAN limit. So all the one-time money can only be one-time money. It can't be for ongoing. And that's our biggest problem, is it can't be for ongoing. So I've been explaining that, and maybe I can do a better job, but I've been trying with that particular thing because I think it's really important to try to explain that.
Okay. So Trustee Gasson, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say exactly what Dr. Derby said, to add on to what Trustee Butler said, was that it's one time. And explaining the GAN limit, it wasn't until a couple of years ago I even understood that. And so many people don't understand. They're like, well, how come he's handing out money? And I go back to the whole ADA conversation too. If we got that changed, that would help tremendously. But the fact that it's not like we have this influx of money that continues, it's, every year it's something different. So.
Agreed. Okay, so Trustee Ulrich, do you have a motion or a comment?
With your approval, I'll make a motion to adopt the first interim budget. It says the super recommends approval of the 2021-22 first interim budget report with a positive certification as presented, and that'll get us on to the next item.
I'll second.
Seconded by Trustee Aguila. So all those in favor? We have 7-4, 0 against.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Now the hard part.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is 14B. This is an approval of a resolution that the board will identify a specific amount of budget reductions and also make a commitment to stop deficit spending by June of 23. So I will turn that back over to Lois Standing to present.
Thank you. There seems to have been a little bit of confusion about this resolution. There are no specific reductions mentioned in it. It is a dollar amount only, plus, as Trustee Nell said, a commitment to stop deficit spending. This was a resolution created in conjunction with the county. They recommended it. It's a statement by the board that this is something that's going to happen. So I will leave it to you. If there are any questions, I can answer those, but otherwise I think it's fairly straightforward. The amount that is in the resolution is $4 million, and that is recognizing that the first interim that you just approved is only a prediction. So the $4 million is more a insurance that we will right-size our budget by doing $4 million worth of reductions. It seems the most prudent amount at this point, and that was something decided in conjunction with the county also.
Okay, so do we have any questions or comments on the resolution itself? And I do have public comment on this as well. So, Trustee Aguila.
No, I'm okay if you want the public to speak first.
You'd like to hear that? Okay. Sure. Anyone else like questions, clarifications? All right, then our public speaker is Alan Harris.
Bottom line is that this is a commitment that the board would be making through adopting Resolution 11 to deal with what you have just approved in the way of an first interim budget next year, 22-23. That's the year that we fall off the cliff, and the interim report that you've just approved has a decrease in the fund balance occurring as a result of declining revenues and expenditures not declining quite as much. A decrease of $3.9 million. This is page 14, third column from the bottom, third line from the bottom, middle column. $4 million just covers that. So that would continue on into the next year. These are ongoing cost reductions. They're not one time. And the last year, you'd be left with 4.8 or something like that. I can't exactly see these numbers here, but and you'd be in the $4 to $5 million range. And parcel tax is the hoped-for solution to that kind of a problem. So please make the commitment. We'll get there. Thank you.
Okay, so back to the board for additional questions or comments, and Trustee Miller.
To me, it's pretty straightforward. We have a structural deficit of $4 million. And all of us have sat at this table over the prior years and said, oh, we have good intentions. We come back with one-time savings, and then we don't actually, during the course of the year, achieve the one-time savings. With the return of Dr. Derby to the district, with a very sharp pencil and Lois Standering's assistance, we have gone through and identified ongoing savings, not one-time savings. The commitment that has to match that hard work is that we're not going to say, oh, let's make a resolution for one-time savings and have our CFO over that next week or year then refill positions that we laid off. or rehire positions that we laid off, or staff classrooms with 12 kids in them when we know we need closer to the contract limit in every class to make sure they can work. There'll be some that'll be a little bit low and some a little bit high, but we have to not do this and then go home and assume that everything is going to go well. We have to build the checks and balances in this process with the county's assistance to make sure that we are delivering on that promise to cut these. This is going to be harder work than we've done before. Before, we were more than happy to say, yep, we passed the resolution, let's wait 6 months and hear the next interim report. Well, we need a much more aggressive position on this. So, because if not, we're not going to be sitting at this table. This town will not be as well served by an outside agency running this school district. We have to get this right. And we have a plan to get it right. This town knows that this district has delivered to student learning in some very significant ways. The obvious one is we just won a state championship, but the less obvious ways is, in spite of some concerns tonight, the pool's open, ongoing. It was, I think we lost 1 day on pool access. We have programs across this district that serve kids. We have reactivated PTAs that were basically idle because everybody was home with COVID, trying to figure out how to keep their kids mentally healthy. We have hard work to do, and it's not just at this board table. It's going to be at every venue, in every meeting across this entire district, with every support group, be it PTA or school fuel or the Rotary or the Kiwanis, whatever the program is. We have to reestablish the fact that this district serves kids, and we have to start by balancing the budget and show them we can do it. Because if they think we can't do it, we're going to have the same comment every week that we heard tonight, which is, you said you were running a program for our kids and then you shut a facility down without telling anybody, and this is just not okay. So I'm ready to sign up with this, but what I wanted, a commitment by everybody at this table, is we're going to, everybody in this room is sharpen this pencil and track these numbers and make this. And not just wait for a year and check, but make sure we're monitoring it very closely all the way through. And I'm welcome the county attendance at every one of our first of month meetings, so we can tell them the steps we're taking. So I'm prepared to approve this motion and then live to it.
Is that a motion?
No, it's
So Trustee Jacobson and Trustee Gass. Oh. So
I'll move to approve.
So for purposes of procedure, it is permissible to have a first and a second and then comment before a vote. So I believe I have a first from Trustee Miller to approve the resolution and a second from Trustee Jacobson, and open to comments. Trustee Gassa.
I totally agree, and I'm in line with this. I think the only comment I want to make is that, it's hard to make these decisions. I just want to prepare staff that I'm going to go into it making sure that the things that we do, we have a plan. So if we're cutting something, what's the plan? When those people aren't there, what's the plan? Because my bigger concern is, in looking at a couple things from the past, is that it sometimes will end up costing us more in the long run if we make the wrong choices. And I know it's hard to make those determinations, but being mindful that as long as we have our ducks in a row and where we're going to go, like looking forward, that's what I'm going to look to in this budget, guys.
Okay, Trustee Aguila.
I just wanted to add that moving forward, what happened yesterday was not okay, and so I want better communication, and so however that looks like, the board didn't know, so we want to have better communication between the board and the community and staff, so we can all be on the same page, and because this is going to be tough. So.
Okay, so I just kind of want to summarize that I think the resolution is more than appropriate. It's and accurate. It addresses the issues that we are facing, primarily on the revenue side. The issues are declining enrollment, increased pension assessments and rate increases, and additional mandates and services added to special education without funding. These are issues that are beyond our control, but if we don't take action, there will be consequences, and the resolution starts out by addressing the first higher authority, which is that of the county superintendent. So I think that's more than appropriate, and it sets forth our advisory committee to help us develop these cuts coming forward, which is something that they asked us to do in order to qualify our budget. I think most importantly, other than to identifying the structural deficit amount of $4 million, is that it commits us to coming up with a systemic change to avoid deficit spending by June of 2023, which I think is going to be difficult and will have an impact on our services. So we want to be as careful and prudent as possible going forward, but hopefully with the support of our community, things will be better, or perhaps even Sacramento coming to its senses and seeing the value in publication and public education and proper funding there. And it also sets our reserves at 17%, which I think we've covered on several occasions as to be appropriate. So having said that, I will call the vote. All those in favor of adopting the resolution? 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we will move on to item 14C, which is approval of resolution number 12, which is the reviewing and the approving of the Nevada Unified School District certificated seniority list. And I will turn this over to Superintendent Jan Derby to present.
Barbara's here, but I do want to say something, so thank you, Derek. One of the things that I think is really important for us to understand on the seniority list is that you can only list the credentials that you already have and possess, nothing that is in the future or pending or working on. And so there have been some questions that have surfaced around that, and we may only put what we have on the list. So I'm sure Barbara can address that even more. But I think we've handled that issue that has been surfacing and that you've gotten emails about through the next item on the agenda, which is the skipping criteria. So when we get to that, and you have a pink sheet for that next item after Barbara finishes this one. So thank you.
I'm glad that you brought up the question about why are, the pending credentials not there, or I'm working on it and I've submitted my application, and since tonight's the night to pick on Sacramento and the CTC can't get their act together to issue my credential. One of the things that happens is that the seniority list, the credential piece of it can be updated as the district gets the information. In fact, today we got an email or whatever they send us from CTC indicating that one of the teachers that currently teaches at Linwood just received her BCLAD. So that'll be added. If not, it'll be added eventually to the seniority list, but it's also part of her personnel file. And so as you go through the seniority list and do the difficult task of identifying people for layoff, not only do you use the seniority list, which tells you where any individual is relative to someone else in the district, we can also get up and walk over and look in the personnel file to confirm whether or not this person does have such and such a credential. I think one of the things that's important in this cover sheet is it refers to the seniority list as a living document. And it truly is, because by tomorrow, Michelle will be sitting down again and adding this credential, this BCLAD, to this teacher's information on the seniority list. So I think that's a really critical thing to know. The other piece is that the seniority list has been distributed to all NFT members. And they'll have an opportunity to go, whoa, I don't think this is right. And they fill out a little form, and that goes to Michelle, and then she, or in my previous lifetime, I used to do it myself, would go through the employee's personnel file and verify which information was correct, either what the district has on the seniority list or if it is the information that the employee provided. So that's all been done, and NFT's had plenty of 15 days, I think it is, to review the list and get information to the district. So it is the recommendation that you approve the seniority list as presented to you this evening with that information that I just provided you.
Okay, Trustee Butler.
I'll move this item.
I'll second.
Oh, that was quick. You guys are getting sleepy or
Yeah,
something.
something we've done. We've done it before.
It's past 8 o'clock.
So if anyone else has any questions, I have a question. Any question. So my question is, why are we approving a seniority list at this time?
Well, in order, you guys have spent better part of a couple hours talking about the budget. One of the things that we will be discussing in actually the next item is the process of layoffs. And the district is overstaffed. I know Lois has talked about that at length. It'll be important for the district to analyze its staffing needs and then do layoffs within the time constraints that are presented. By law, you have to take action on your layoff resolution. It's called particular kinds of service. It means you identify what kinds of service, e.g. teachers or psychologists or whatever, that you're overstaffed in. And that layoff resolution and preliminary layoff notices have a March 15th hard deadline. So March 15th, interestingly enough, is one of your board meetings this year, so it's obviously going to be coming before then. And then you have to do final layoff notices by May 15th. So doing it now gives the district ample time to be able to look at what its staffing needs are going to be and identify layoffs to be coming to the board well in advance of the March 15th deadline.
I appreciate that explanation, and we have a contractual obligation to our employees, especially to those that have been here the longest, to respect that effort, but just to be clear and as fair as possible, identify where they rank in seniority. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you bringing this forward in time for us to make tough decisions about our budget going forward. So I do have a first and a second, and if there's actually do I have a first and a second? I call for them. Okay, and for the record, you have okay. I would like to call for that vote then. So all those in favor of approving tonight's seniority list, 7-0. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for presenting. We will move on to the next item on our agenda, which I'm still getting used to getting organized up here at. That would be item D, which is approval of resolution number 13, reviewing and improving the Nevada Unified School District's skipping criteria for certificated layoffs. And I'll turn that to the superintendent. Okay.
Yes,
so we're
yes, definitely to me, and then I want to say something, and then Barbara will.
Okay, so Barbara first will explain are you going to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go first.
Because I want to know what a skipping criteria is and what a certificated is.
Yes, she's going to explain that. But the important thing that I wanted to point out, because the emails that we've been receiving address this issue, and so I want to just read that part on the bottom, and then Barbara's going to explain overall what is the skipping criteria, who's on it, and why they're on it. But I want to just read this aloud. The bottom of the pink sheet, number 5.
Yeah.
Spanish.
Superintendent.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if you're put on.
Oh, gosh, thanks. Thank you so much, Maria. So number 5, Spanish B-clad, and assigned to teach in a dual immersion program during the 21-22 and the 22-23 school year, including those who are enrolled in a program to complete a B-clad and are on track to receive the B-clad authorization by the end of the 22-23 school year. Now, we just heard, Barbara just said that they just got notification today on one of those 6 that we knew about already. But this protects all of them because they're in process right now. And so that was the important thing, and that's why people were panicking, because it's very hard to find B-clad people. One of the things that we will do moving forward, though, and I want to be really clear about this, is we will be only hiring BCLAD people, because when you advertise, that's who we need in these positions. We've got 6 people who do not have it right now, and so we don't want to find ourselves in that position again. So, but we have other very pressing needs in other areas that we have hard time filling. So Barbara will talk to you about the skipping criteria and certificated as you requested.
Okay, so I'll take the easy part first, and that is certificated employees are those employees who have to have a teaching credential or an administrative credential or a certificate in order to be employed. They're different than classified positions. Classified employees don't have to have any kind of certificate or credential. The kinds of services they provide are the things that keep the district moving forward on an everyday basis, but that's the difference between the two groups. You can lay off classified people as well as certificated. Under the new law in California, the timelines are exactly the same. It's now March 15th for preliminary for classified and May 15th for final notice, which is kind of sending some people into a dither that have to deal with it. So skipping criteria. Skipping means that they get skipped over for a layoff. So I could be a teacher really low on the seniority list, like say I was just hired this school year. So I'm like, okay, I better get my letters, of reference done and polish up my resume, because if the district is laying off 10 positions, 15 positions, I probably will get a layoff notice. However, if I'm like that BCLAD, that person who just got their BCLAD awarded or the district received notice today, because I'm in a program that's high need, and in this particular is your dual immersion program that meets a very specific need in your district. And I'm in that program and I have a BCLAD because I'm hard to find. So I get skipped over and I get to retain my position, even though people who have more seniority than me might get laid off because they don't happen to be in the dual immersion program at Linwood, nor do they hold a BCLAD credential. That's the easiest example here. Some of the other, you see the other areas of high need, and that's because people don't go out and get credentials in Spanish that often. They're hard to find. Math people, same thing. They're really hard to find math teachers. Sciences are the same, and special education. Special day class, RSP, school psychologist, speech and language specialist are all really hard positions to fill. So that's why those people get skipped, where multiple subject credential holders, as great as they may be and as important as they are to meet the needs of the elementary kids in the district, will be the bulk of the layoff. And it's unfortunate, first of all, that the district has to lay off anyone at all. But that's the rationale for skipping criteria. It's areas of high need and very specialized credentials, and a shortage of individuals to fulfill those positions.
Okay, any questions or concerns about the skipping criteria that's been presented by staff as we proceed with our setting up our budget cuts in the near future? Is any questions about that? I had was wondering if you could give us a little bit better description of what BCLAD stands for and what that particular certificate is.
I know the B stands for bilingual, but it's been so long ago. So I think that's right. Certificate of Language Acquisition Development. Okay. It was a hard question. I haven't had to think about that for a long time.
Well, I think it's important that people know. I think they get science. I think they get math. I think they might want to know.
And they are people who specialize in the English language development of typically students who are just acquiring English.
So, Trustee Jacobson.
Does this caveat of adding teachers who are enrolled in the program to complete the BCLAD and are on track to get that authorization by the end of next year, does that sort of encapsulate all of the people that we're now working with and want to make sure stay on? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns about this? This is essentially what I consider to be a local decision that goes going forward on how we're going to set this up and how we're going to prioritize these. So I think it's important. I know that you have all been thinking about this for a long time because I've been right there with you, and this is going to be difficult for everyone, including our students in the end. So with having said that, can I have a motion? Trustee Aguila?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve the resolution number 13, 2021-22, reviewing and approving the Nevada Unified School District skipping criteria for certificated layoffs.
Thank you. And second? Trustee Jacobson is second. All in favor? 7-0. Again, thank you very much, as we will move on.
Say something.
Oh, I'm absolutely.
No,
recognize
so our
superintendent.
trustee, little Ellen over there, sends me a text that says, BCLAD is bilingual cross-cultural language in academic development. We were all wrong, so here it is.
Okay. So I'm starting to see why you are so wise. You're letting your secrets out.
What can I say? I do think it has changed. I think
You remember acquisition, but I could be thinking of language acquisition and a number of other acronyms we use.
Okay, so next stepping up is our Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Jennifer Larson, and she will be presenting on item E, which is approval of our Educator Effectiveness Block Grant Plan. There's an acronym.
Sure is. Thank you all. Wonderful to see you. And I am returning tonight to ask your approval for the plan that was developed for the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. Again, this is one of those one-time funding streams that we have received. NUSD has been fortunate to have been allocated $1.6 million, just over that. This specific grant is specific to providing professional learning opportunities for teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, and our classified staff, focusing on equity, quality, and academic achievement and effectiveness. As required by the grant, there needed to be a public presentation and a public forum of that plan that was brought here and presented on November 16th at our last board meeting. And at that point, we had an opportunity for both board members and public comment to provide any input for changes in the plan. As of tonight, we have received no input to have any changes made after our last board meeting. So just as a reminder, there are 10 areas of focus that we can use these funds for. Based on taking a look at this money and some of the other one-time funds we had, we identified 6 of the 10 areas that we would be using this fund to help us support, mainly around the education and professional development for our new teachers, our teacher leadership team around some of our district-wide initiatives, the continuation of our data specialists, and our focus on equity and the education we need to support in our individual school site campuses. So with that, I am here for any questions or final pieces of input and to ask for approval for this plan to move forward.
So the recommendation is to approve the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant Plan. Do we have any questions or comments for Assistant Superintendent Larson while she's at the podium? Okay, seeing none, I will have a comment then. I think that I will recognize the efforts in the prioritization. I think that the board's silence essentially is that we agree with how you prioritize this $1.6 million plus that's going to be used to train our professionals here at inside the Nevada Unified School District. So of course, the professionals I'm talking about are administrators, but also all of our teachers who are responsible for growing the minds of our young people here. So I think that we will probably be moving ahead here shortly. Can I have a first on approving the block grant? Trustee Mack and Trustee Aguila second. So all those in favor, 7-0. And we will stop the plan, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So moving on to item F, which is review and approve board policies in the 4,000 personnel series. These are first readings, and Barbara will be presenting the first set of policies around development for certificated, classified, and administrative employees.
The staff development or professional development is important for all school district employees so that they can better perform their job in order to meet the needs of the students in the district. And if you take a look at these, each of these policies focus on what the essential functions of any given position are. So you're going to see differences between the kinds of staff development activities that you would look at for certificated as opposed to for classified employees and as opposed to administrative employees. One of the things that's interesting, though, about some of the new legislation that's mentioned in here is there's a real emphasis on the social and emotional needs of kids, not only in terms of the staff development activities that are proposed for teaching staff, but also how classified staff can support the social and emotional needs of students, and what kinds of activities and leadership the administrative staff can provide that help support certificated and classified employees as they work on better programs for social and emotional needs for students. And I think that's really reflective of the time that we're in. So these policies do identify a variety of kinds of training that you can offer to each of these different groups of individuals. And it just kind of outlines and provides a little structure for things that are already going on in the district.
So do we have any questions or comments? Guess what? I have a comment. So what's important about this is essentially most of the Nevada Unified District is made up of the people who work here and provide the educational services. And so their development, without question, is a high priority. These policies set forth some structure. They prioritize things. They are an important thing. And seeing as how this is a first reading of these policies before they're fully adopted, I would encourage our certificated staff, our classified staff, and our administrators to read and comment and to make sure that they're comfortable with these policies before they're adopted. And that does not exclude our parents and community members either, but these are important, and if we would like to hear from you if you think that they are either appropriate or inappropriate in different places. So having said that, I will call for a motion. Trustee Milrick.
The 4,000 series, the superintendent recommends approval of the 3 board policies in the 4,000 series as the first reading, with all items returned to the board for a second reading as consent items at a future board meeting. I assume that's the January board meeting.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
I think that is a fair assumption.
I'll second.
First by Trustee Milrick, seconded by Trustee Aguila. All those in favor? We have 7-0, and the recommendation is adopted. So next is G, which is review and approve board policies and administrative regulations in the 5,000, which is the student series. These are first readings, and Superintendent Dr. Jan Derby will present first.
Yeah, so you recall we had the civility, and we spoke about it tonight because it was a second reading. These are policies that were listed in that policy that we did not possess in our files and in our policies and procedures. So we're bringing them forward because they are the suggestion on the original civility policy. And they really address racial, cultural disturbances, anything that is a gathering, and how we're going to handle it. And so that's what these are really about. And so there's consistency on how we're handling any disturbances that are created with students. So that's what this is.
Trustee Gasson.
So thank you for pulling this forward, and I did have a question, and I since it's a first reading, and so I don't have any changes per se, but I have a question regarding the policy, and specifically under the second CSBA note, it mentions the superintendent or designee and the principal of each school shall establish a school disturbance response plan. It goes on to talk about that. Is that something that will then follow, or do we already have that in place?
That, Leslie, I'm thinking that belongs in the safety plan, and I'm not sure because we're just bringing this for a first reading, but we would reference it in the safety plan and how it's handled if, there's disruptions at schools. Yeah, that's where I think it goes, Diane.
Okay. Is that currently there then, Leslie, already? Okay. I'll just follow up with you later then, just to see. Well, thank you.
We'll definitely put it there. If there's not something already referenced, that's where it goes.
Right, and I was just thinking about some of the stuff that we just covered, that, just having a really good understanding of what's supposed to transpire, so everybody's consistently doing the same.
Yeah,
I think would just be extremely helpful. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Any other, Trustee Miller?
So on that point, Dr. Derby, my understanding and observation historically was there was a red binder in the principal's office that was the grab and run book that allowed, and in that document was responses, a tab for whatever the event was. And I think it would be good for you to audit that to make sure that we've run into some other issues where things have gotten lax, and that tool has always been something that's given me comfort and has been pointed out to me by administrators when I walk on campus to show that we're in a position to protect our children under various circumstances. So if I could ask that you just double check to make sure that those tools are still in place.
Okay, I certainly will.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? I have a comment. So I just want to say that I'm grateful that you brought this forward. I think it's regrettable that our culture and society today has forced public education to adopt these types of policies. And it's my hope that working together, eventually we're going to get through this derisive period of our history. But we do need to have a manual, and it's layman's terms, by the book. And so when issues happen and things come up, we're going to have something in place. Trustee Miller mentioned our administrators needing support and structure on how to deal with these things. So appreciate this. Again, this is a first reading, so hopefully there are comments. And at this point, it will be coming back, and I believe Trustee Gasson had a request that you guys will address the safety aspect and where it's included in our safety structures, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Is that correct? Okay. All right, thank you. So can I have a motion to, Trustee Miller? Okay. As a first, and a second by Trustee Gasson. All those in favor? 7-0. Second reading. And okay. Next will be review and approval of Board Policy 6000, which is instruction series. This is again a first reading, and Jen Larson, our Assistant Superintendent of Education Services.
Thank you for inviting me back to the podium. I'm here actually on behalf of our special education team. Angela was unable to be here to bring forward a policy. It is not a new procedure. It is something that we definitely have in practice and have always historically had in practice. But in reviewing our updates for high school graduation requirements, which will be coming to you in January, we acknowledge that we don't have a policy specific to our differential graduation and competency standards for students with disabilities. So tonight we bring forward a first reading. This policy is specific to ensuring that we have practices in place, which I can confirm that we do, to work with our special education team, our students and their families and guardians to ensure that if and when it is most appropriate to support the student in completing high school with a certificate of completion rather than a typical diploma, that is in place and supported throughout their time here at NUSD. And so my recommendation would be for approval of this policy to come back on consent. And I would love to hear any input or questions you may have regarding this specific addendum or addition to our high school graduation requirements.
Trustee Milrick.
So I'm reading this and I want some clarification.
Yeah.
Is this a student with special, who is going to get a certificate of completion can participate in graduation just as fully as a student who gets a diploma?
Yes, they would be able to walk at graduation. The certificate they have at the end of the graduation is not a diploma, it is a certificate of completion.
So have we been following this practice up till now?
We have done that.
Good.
There
So
are students that we have.
My nephew graduated with a certificate of completion and is probably the most popular kid in his class, but he had some challenges and his certificate of completion was awarded with the full honors and prestige that his other students were awarded, and that's how we should be doing business.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad we were doing business that way, and I'm glad that there's a policy that affirms that practice. Each of us have different skills and abilities, and thank you for this.
Yep.
And I support it.
So would that be a motion to?
Yeah, no, I would, this one, I would love to make a motion to support for Board Policy 6146.4, first reading, bringing back as the second reading on consent. I'd be thrilled with that.
Seconded by Trustee Mack, and I support this as well. So all those in favor? 7-0.
very much.
Okay. So moving right along, next up is, if I'm not losing my place here, is I. We're going to review and approve Board Policy 6000, instruction. And Superintendent Jan Derby will bring up school-sponsored trips.
Yeah, so you remember you were here at 7:30 a.m. the other day, and we had the regs for you because we had to approve the playoff games. And so, I don't know, Ellen was at her desk and we were getting ready and she said, oh my goodness. So I knew something was up, right? So I go out and I find out we only have regs. We do not have a board policy. This is the matching board policy. So now we have board policy and we have regs, and the regs are fine, and we got that taken care of, but now the board policy is going to be coming through. So that's what you have before you tonight.
Questions or comments? Trustee Aguila?
No, I just want to make a motion.
Yeah, sure. Trustee Butler. Actually, since I have a motion, I can get a second from some Trustee Jacobson, and so that Trustee Butler, you have the floor.
Is there an exhibit? Is the field trip form is the exhibit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She went to talk over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Come to the mic.
Yeah, you should.
Yep. Click.
Hello. So our plan before this discovery was to bring you in January, on January 11th, the full breadth of all of the exhibits. So as you know, staff has been working very hard on updating board policies, administrative regulations, and now we're getting into the exhibit world. And so we are formatting and branding and making a template for what exhibits should look like across the district. And we'll be putting those on the website and linking them to our gamut board policy so that site administrators, office managers, the public can all see what exactly we mean when we talk about exhibits. So the plan was for January to bring you exhibits for the field trip form that sites fill out in order for students to go on trips exceeding 100 miles and overnights. The form that they request the board approval, the form for transportation requests for field trips, and the form for meals for field trips for students to identify whether they want breakfast and lunch at a field trip. So you'll be seeing 4 exhibits in the new template under consent January 11th.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so what we are going to, so that what we are going to try to do as much as we can from now on is to bring board policy, AR, and exhibit all together. But as we, had some that were kind of out of sync, Ellen's right. We're bringing them all, so you'll see them.
So I too think this is an excellent policy that we should be bringing forward. The student safety is paramount, and when in absentia we send students on their way to experience life outside the district, I think it's important that we have rules and policies in place for our staff to abide by and and ensure safety and education is the main focus on these trips. So we have a first and a second. So all those in favor? 7-0. And we are moving right along. Hey, it's policy night. Okay. Finally, we have J, approval to purchase new classroom furniture for our elementary schools, TK through 5th, Hamilton, Loma Verde, Lou Sutton, Pleasant Valley, Rancho, San Ramon. I probably left some.
Here comes Mike, always last. We feel that's not, but it's not 9 o'clock yet. So it's really good. But you have some paperwork on it's yellow that references it. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you. First, 2 apologies. The first one, the memo I got tonight about the ugly sweater contest was not real. So, and second, apologize for the error in the original board cover. I had the wrong dates for when you had previously passed the furniture approval. Thanks to Trustee Butler with the eagle eyes over there for pointing that out. Basically, you approved furniture purchase for our recent projects at Linwood and Olive this past summer. We made those purchases. We've outfitted the classrooms. And continuing along the same thing, we're ready to use that standard that was established and continue with the rest of the elementary schools. As President Nell just said, the only exception being we're only doing K through 5 at the Hamilton School. We will do the middle school grades next summer. So with that, we're following the same U.S. Communities contract. The good news is we locked in 2-year pricing last summer, and given what's been going on with cost, we got really lucky on that one. So we're saving a good bit of money with good costs, and looking to use the same furniture company, Verco, that does a very good product. So in summary, just asking for board approval of $1.45 million to purchase the furniture. The reason we're going a little early is, again, because of some logistic issues. We're hoping to get board approval tonight. We'll move ahead with an order submitted before Christmas to get it in the queue to hopefully get it delivered in time for this summer. So with that, happy to answer any questions you might have.
Trustee Gasson.
So thank you. I happen to know from when I was touring the schools a little while ago, like Loma Verde had some new cool tables, and I know from being at PV, the PTA paid for a lot of, I forget what we called the furniture and stuff there. So what's going to happen to that kind of stuff that was purchased before? Is that taken into consideration that they're keeping it, or?
Well, actually, we're coming in to replace all student chairs, desks, and the teacher, I call it teacher station, which is a desk, a chair, a podium, and a filing cabinet. Other furniture that's in the room will remain unchanged. This is just the student desks and chairs and teacher furniture. But I do know a lot of schools had purchased through PTAs and other programs to get various new furniture over the years. Our intent is to pull that out and go through a disposal process, which we're actually hoping to use a nonprofit first that repurposes that furniture for use in other schools. Otherwise, we go through the standard disposal process, which we try to reuse it, but if not, some of our furniture, as you know, is pretty old. It will be just
Well, no, I just.
But this stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, even though it's PTA purchased, it's still a school district-owned asset, and we treat it through that same process.
It was more that it's pretty new stuff, and it was desks and stuff, at least and actually at Loma Verde too. So it was nice stuff, so I just didn't know what we were planning on doing with it, or if there were.
We're definitely trying to get it reused, through our standard disposal process, or that's a hard word, but not having it thrown away, but having some other people reuse that same furniture. We also have the option of the new stuff, we could put it out for auction, which is another option on the process.
Okay.
To get some value or use out of that new furniture. But as far as keeping it to reuse it, we're replacing all the student desks and chairs with the new standard furniture, so that everybody has the same thing across all grades.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Jacobson?
Thank you. So kind of in regards to that, there's been some times where new exciting things are coming and staff members are less than thrilled because they have either what is new to them and they're really happy with or what they're used to. And it's been problematic. So I just want to ask that you please make sure that the communication is very ahead of time and thorough, and so that everyone knows exactly what will also be happening with these items. I think particularly in the cases where they're newer, I know that there's some, you and I have talked about some issues with, the overarching replacement of things and not being able to pick and choose for various reasons. So we're kind of stuck with this situation that is good that everyone's going to get new things, but it is very difficult to watch things get thrown away that are perfectly
Absolutely.
good. So I'm just asking that you please be mindful of all of that as you go through this.
We will, and we are meeting directly with each site staff and staff meetings starting in January with some of the schools to let them know exactly what's coming, the plan, what they need to do to prepare.
And maybe if you can even communicate, if you're meeting with the principal, that it needs to be told to the teachers much sooner rather than later, just in case they're not aware that that's
No,
the
I mean,
case.
when I mean staff meetings, I'm meeting with the principal and the site
Okay,
staff.
thank you.
To explain that. Thank you for bringing that up. Just getting the cookies, they're really good.
Any more questions or comments? Then I want to thank you for the hard work you put in bringing this forward. I think I have a sweater like that at home, but it's got a 9-volt battery and it blinks. I won't wear it.
I'll make sure the memo gets out next week.
Maybe on Christmas Day or something. But essentially, I think, I agree with Trustee Jacobson and Kassan when they point out, change is difficult and sometimes people would just want to make sure they're part of the process in advance. And I know you're going to do the best you can, but it is certainly worthy of mentioning at this point. We're going to probably go ahead and adopt the recommendation, but I think that above all things, just make sure that the site is participating and knows as much as possible about what's happening.
Will do.
All right, thank you. So with having said that, do I have a motion to accept the recommendation? Trustee Jacobson? And I need a second. Trustee Mack, thank you. All those in favor? And 7-0 again. So
Very much.
Thank you. So that concludes our agenda tonight. I want to thank you all for being patient with me. I promise to do what I can to make us more efficient and effective as possible going forward. I'm probably supposed to make some sort of an announcement about our next board meeting and look it up on the website. No, just kidding. January 11th at 5 p.m. is a regular meeting. We also have a board workshop coming up on January 13th. And again, I want to thank trustees, staff, and our community for participating. Please support your local public school. And good night.